Well, hello, guys. Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. It's Roscoe in the leaves, and it's just like you don't see anything; you just kind of hear a rustling in the leaves. And earlier today, we saw this fox running down the neighborhood, and saw a fox that was on the bike path over there and things. And I'm just like, okay, is that Roscoe or is that something else over here? So it was Roscoe, thank goodness. Looks like winter is coming. It's November and it feels like November today. Yesterday it was about 65, 70 degrees. Today the wind is howling and it's cold. So I'm sitting here and I've been thinking about this today. There's tough decisions to be made on a football team. Now, we know the Cowboys just signed Breland Speaks, off of, who was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs to the practice squad. You don't know what you're going to get. He had a knee injury last year, 24 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and so on. Fell out of favor with Kansas City, and he was with the Raiders for some of the time. They signed David Irving, I guess, found him expendable, but he was a second-round pick. In fact, picked up before Connor Williams. And the reality of a team, as much as everybody says it's only the quarterback, the thing is the Cowboys need to figure out their defense to go with the offense. We got problems in the offense as well. We got a lot of injuries, but we need to get a defense that can take away the football. It's been an utterly disgrace what we have done as far as taking away the football and sacks this year. Aldon Smith leads the team with only 5 sacks. 5 sacks. That's not great. Now, I know that's in 9 games. It's a half a sack a game, but still, we need to do better than what we're doing. And again, the defense has been playing better the last couple of weeks as opposed to the beginning of the year. But Aldon Smith has played really well for us this season. In fact, as you look at what he's done, this season, I want to go through his numbers for this season. 5 sacks, 37 combined tackles, 24 solo tackles. 24. Now, when you think that Tyrone Crawford has 1 solo tackle, yeah, he's beasting. 3 tackles for a loss, and I think he's got 2 forced fumbles. 2 forced fumbles, and 9 quarterback hits. Those are great numbers. Jerry Jones has already, turned down a trade offer for him from Seattle. We don't know what they were offering. It might have been, we'll give you a 6th-round pick for him. The Cowboys like, no, sure, you got to come up with a whole lot more than that. And Jerry Jones, of course, is saying, we want to get a long-term deal. Well, the question you have to ask is, what will that long-term deal cost you? And is that the best move to make? Because the Cowboys, we've had situations where we said, that guy's playing really great. Sometimes after one good year, and we ended up backing up the truck for him. We did that with Miles Austin. We did that with Jay Ratcliffe. We did that with Marion Barber. And the problem with those is a lot of times they were contract years, and they never achieved the same thing again. So Robert Quinn last year played 14 games, just suspended for 2. Last year, it was insane what he did, okay? After the year before only having 6.5 sacks, he had 11.5 sacks in 12 games. I mean, literally, he had a sack a game. Had 34 combined tackles, 26 solo tackles, 8 assists, 13 tackles for loss, and 22 hits on the quarterback. You couldn't complain on that one. In fact, a lot of people said, hey, we need to keep Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn signed a 5-year deal with the Bears for $75 million. And if you want to do the math, that is $15 million a year. But coming off of a year like that, you say, well, shit, 11.5 sacks, 34 tackles, 22 hits on the quarterback, sold. But here's the funny thing. In 9 games this year, 3 short of what he did last year, it's not real good. It's not real good at all. 2 forced fumbles, which is good. 2 forced fumbles is good, the same as he had last year, but he's got 1 sack. Now, I know sacks aren't the be-all, end-all. You know, D-Law does not have that many sacks, but he's got a lot of tackles and tackles for loss. Robert Quinn right now, who's getting paid $15 million, coming off that monster year, has 9 combined tackles, 6 solos, and 3 assists. 0 tackles for a loss, and only 3 quarterback hits. You talk about a drop-off in production. Could you imagine if we had said, you know what, we're going to keep Robert Quinn and we're going to pay him $15 million? You're screwed. At least, here was the good thing for the Cowboys. In this draft this year, we got a 4th-round pick. That's a compensatory pick. Because he signed a big contract elsewhere, we got draft capital coming back. And when you think about how that ends up working, I'm going to come back to that 4th-round draft pick. I'm going to give you another situation here. Because sometimes you have to look at the body of work. In 2013, right after we ended up losing Sean Lee, and we ended up, DeMarcus Ware was hurt. I'm sorry, Sean Lee wasn't hurt that year. Sean Lee played that year. We had a terrible defense that year. But one person who didn't have a terrible year was actually Jason Hatcher. Jason Hatcher that year had 11 sacks, 41 combined tackles, 34 solos, 7 assists, and 15 tackles for loss, and 15 quarterback hits. You looked at that and said, oh my God, we got to keep that guy. Interesting thing was, he signed a deal with the Washington football team, I want to say for like $30 million for 3 years. Interesting thing was, the next year, he had 5.5 sacks, 25 combined tackles, and only 10 quarterback hits. The year after that, he had 2 sacks, 20 tackles, 16 solo tackles, and only 13 hits on the quarterback, and was released. The thing that was interesting about this one is, if you look at his production before that year, 2.5 sacks, 2 sacks, 1 sack, 1 sack, 1 sack, 4.5 sacks, 4 sacks, and then boom, jumps up to 11. Contract year, he blows up. Now, we let him go. And fortunately, we didn't pay him. I forgot to pull up this one. I'm outside, of course. Here's one more that actually relates back to that compensatory pick. If we go back through, let's go back with DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray in 2014, the year that we should have won a Super Bowl, DeMarco Murray had the best season of any Dallas Cowboy running back ever, as far as personal rewards. I'd say Emmitt Smith winning the rushing title and winning the Super Bowl would definitely probably be better. But from a personal standpoint, DeMarco Murray rushed for 1,845 yards, a Dallas Cowboy record, 13 TDs, 4.7 yards a carry, 115 yards a game. It was phenomenal. And the Dallas Cowboys were kind of like, we're not going to pay you. And they let him walk. He ended up signing with the Eagles. And he went from 1,845 yards to 702. Now, he did recover himself a little bit in Tennessee and got 1,287 yards, 4.4 yards a carry, and then one more year at 659. But the interesting thing was, because the Dallas Cowboys didn't sign him, we got a 4th-round draft pick. a 4th-round draft pick that we used to draft Dak Prescott. And had we re-signed DeMarco Murray, we wouldn't have gotten that compensatory pick that would have brought Dak here. And because we had DeMarco Murray, we probably wouldn't have drafted Zeke Elliott. It's amazing how this feels like, I think it's the movie Sliding Doors, that if you do something different, that you're going to have something totally different happen. So I don't have the answer on paying Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith does have a better track record than Jason Hatcher did going into this year, with the exception of being suspended for 4 years. But if Aldon Smith hits the market, I don't know that he gets a $75 million contract, $15 million a year, but I can best believe that he's going to get at least $10 million a year, because hell, we're paying 9.8 for Tyrone Crawford right now. If he does get a $10 to $12 million a year deal, that probably will get us a 4th-round compensatory pick. Now, maybe he ends up being a monster and, plays great someplace. I don't know. But you know what you get here. You get a draft pick that you might be able to get a player that's young, that's cheap. And you definitely save cap space in the future. Because ultimately, you got to get young guys. That's how you make it in the NFL. Older players get old and they get more expensive. The young bucks stay healthier longer and they don't cost you as much. And when you look at the numbers where we have all these big contracts, I don't know how many more big ones we can do. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether or not Aldon Smith is the guy we pay. I'm Mark Holmes, and I'll be back later on to do my fireside chat. Right now, I'm going to go inside and warm up. I'll see you soon.